Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I am Ralph Labella.
And I'm Ron Sen. First, I want to talk a little bit about coaching and leadership. I just finished reading a book by Pat Williams, who's from the Orlando Magic, and it was about Bear Bryant and his tenure at Alabama. Now, Bryant had coached at some other schools first, including Maryland and Kentucky, not exclusively those, but he ultimately went back to his alma mater, Alabama, and with his first group, I believe in 1958, he told the freshmen that by the time that they were seniors, they'd win a national championship. And they did. They won the first of 6 national championships that Bryant won. But the author emphasized a number of factors about Bryant, ranging from his belief in having a vision, competence, communication and people skills, boldness and leadership, and also being a servant leader, serving both the university and the community at large. So I wanted to open up the discussion to what it really takes to be a great coach. In other words, do you want a person who's potentially a tyrant, who's, in other words, maybe a terrible person who's a great coach? Some people would argue a guy like Bobby Knight was that. Or is it worse to have a person who's a wonderful person and really not that great a coach?
Well, it all depends who you're coaching. If you're coaching a strong group, basically an all-star group, they want to be coached. They want to be coached hard. They want to become the best players they can. I mean, I've gone through it. I've coached Little League and Babe Ruth. When you get those teams, half the players really want to work in the game. The other half are there because their parents want them to be there. They don't really love the game. But I've always said, if you love the game, you're going to like being coached by me. If you don't love the game, you're not going to be. Because, we both coach, the girls' basketball. We've done it for years. And I'm the type who really pushes. And you're the type who likes to teach.
Well, I'm conflicted because, I really love basketball. I have a passion for basketball and teaching basketball. But I don't expect all the players are going to share that enthusiasm. All the players are there because they want to be. Again, during Bryant's book, one of the English professors went with Bryant on a trip with the players, and he heard Bryant lecture the players, and Bryant had kind of a growly, soft, deep voice, and he intentionally spoke softly so that the players really had to strain to understand what he was saying. And afterwards, the professor said to him, if I had my students who cared as much and paid attention like your players do, I'd teach for free. And so, as I said, I'm conflicted about should I really try to push somebody who doesn't care that much. To me, the difference between, or the link between potential and performance or production is encouragement. And the player who really wants to be a great player doesn't need very much encouragement, I think.
Yeah, the way I look at it, if you compliment a player, with us, if you compliment one of the girls, say 10 times every one time you get on her, to me, you're doing the right thing, because when they're doing the right thing, you're letting them know. And we try to encourage them as much as possible. What I look at, like when you say, what you worry about is, well, you know how I coach. I get on them big time if I don't think that they understand that they can play at a high level. Like when we played VBC last week, we started off the game. They came out, they had a lot of talent. They were really pressuring us. And you could see in the girls, they weren't enjoying it. We went down 8-0, 10-0 right off the bat. I called the timeout and I got into them. I said, girls, you don't understand how talented you are. One-on-one, you're not going by the girls. You're trying to get rid of the ball right away. So they go back out there and they take it to them, and it was a great game. But we know how good they can play. And so I think they're starting to understand that, because they're playing against the top teams in the state and they're being successful. So they're understanding how good they can play. But I go home at times and I say to myself, thank God I have you there.
Well, I wrote an email to one of the players' mother and father and said, your daughter can be a really terrific player. These are the things that she needs to do that. First of all, I would encourage her to figure out how much of a vertical jump she has right now, or reach, take a little piece of chalk, jump up against a wall and see what you can do in 6 months. But in 6 months, I want it to be 6 inches higher. Now, maybe because you grow 6 inches, I don't care. But if you can have a dominant shot blocker, that's going to make a real difference. And I said, you've got to learn how to take care of the basketball after your rebound, and you know what I'm talking about. And also, you need to be able to get your shot off more quickly. If you can do those things, you're going to be an impact player very quickly in high school.
Right. Well, we have, again, we coach the 8th grade girls travel team. We have several players who could make the varsity next year, who could make the varsity. The one thing Dr. Sen and I worry about is, you know, we're all done with them after this year. We may have them in the summertime playing in a varsity league. We may. But after this, I mean, like with Kayla, you know, talking to Kayla, you know, about the team, what we would like to do is see them improve as much as they've improved over the last 4 years. If they can keep that going, by the time they're sophomores in high school, they're going to be, that team's going to be a powerhouse.
Right. When you, for example, when I watch a basketball game, I'm not watching people run up and down the floor. The NBA All-Star game, it started off, the first play, Chris Paul brings the ball down the right side of the court, and Blake Griffin goes to set a high screen on the right side of the court. Now he sees Garnett or whoever was covering him start to overhedge and immediately slips the pick, goes to the basket, Paul hits him, dunk. So great play. I've never seen a Melrose team slip the pick and score a basket ever. And this is not rocket science. It's about understanding the game, getting coached at a high level, and being able to identify the opportunities. Now we're trying to introduce those kind of skills and knowledge into our players. It's going to take a while, but you know, these are the opportunities that are out there if you really understand the game and if you really love the game.
Yeah, and again, when you're talking about groups and you're talking about the future of Melrose High School sports in basketball, I mean, they have talent up there now. They have a deep freshman class right now. They have a deep 8th grade class coming up. There's 2 teams, actually 3, coming up there next year. And is the progression going to keep going the way we hope it does? If it does, they're going to be very successful. Once again, they could be the top team in the Middlesex League. They're beating all the top teams right now, except for Bill Ricker, who's just a powerhouse. And I still believe Bill Ricker's 8th grade team could beat a lot of varsity teams. They're that strong. But these girls have beaten every team in the North that they faced. So the potential's there. Again, I worry that the progression may not stay.
Well, the reason we
should.
worry is because the current team beat almost every team in the North as well when they were at that age. So it's important that players continue to develop athletically and in their mental understanding of the game, and as well as your physical skills. You know, you could have all the athleticism in the world and not enough skills, or you can have skills and not be in great shape. You know, if you want to play a certain way, if you want to play fast, then you've got to be in absolutely terrific physical condition, and you know, that's really on the players to do that. Coaches can encourage conditioning through drills. You know, we don't spend a lot of time having people run sprints because, you know, first of all, we don't have much practice time.
Yeah, and you go back again, like you talked about this year's team, this year's senior class. When they were 8th graders and 7th graders, they played against Haley and O'Brien and that Reading team. As 7th graders, they split with them, and as 8th graders, they lost both times. But the second game, they lost on a 3-point shot by O'Brien. Haley was in that game, and they trapped her every time she touched the ball. They did a good job on her. And for whatever reason, Reading kept progressing well, and Melrose didn't.
If you feel you're outgunned, then you can't turn the ball over. You've got to dominate on the boards. You've got to make your free throws, and you can't make silly mistakes. And if the other team has a great player, you've got to get the ball out of her hands and not let her get it back, or at least make her work as hard, or make him work as hard as they can to get the ball back and tire them out. This is not, there's no secrets. We didn't, go to some Rosetta Stone and find the translation to how to do that, but it's really important to have your players understand what they need to do to be successful.
Yeah, and then what you see with next year's high school team, they're not deep as seniors, they're not deep as juniors next year. I mean, they have some players, but they're not a deep class. They're very deep as freshmen, and they're very deep as incoming freshmen.
Right.
So next year, the sophomore and freshman classes will be very deep.
And as a player, you want to have the attitude, not that I'm going to make the varsity team, but that I'm going to be able to contribute as soon as possible because I have the skills, the desire, I'm going to be in shape, and I'm going to understand what I need to do better than the player who's already on the team.
Yeah, another thing I would say too to anybody playing, even middle school or whatever, but especially going up to high school, just don't want to be a player on the team. Don't want to be just like, I mean, there are role players, but if you want to be a role player, you're never going to be as good as you should be. You want to contribute to the team. You want to go out there. You don't want to say, well, I don't want to turn the ball over. I just, let someone else do the scoring, whatever. You want to give everything you have. You want to contribute to the wins. That's what you want to do.
Well, sometimes you need players who are complementary players who add intangibles to your team. Now, a player who played only a couple of years of high school basketball and never played on the varsity, who played for us, was Brittany, who was really kind of the glue that held our team together as a 7th and 8th grader, even though she wasn't the biggest player or the fastest player, but she was a really tough player.
She was the toughest player.
And knew how to play. And now, moving along to the NBA, today was the trading deadline in the NBA, and the Celtics did pick up a useful piece, Jordan Crawford, and they really didn't give anything up. They gave up Barbosa's contract and Jason Collins. Now, is that going to put the Celtics over? I don't think so, but they made a decision to really stick with what they have instead of totally rebuild.
Yeah, he's 23 years old. He's very good offensively. He can shoot the ball, take the ball to the hoop. Terrible defensively, but when you play with Garnett and Pierce and Terry, Rivers coaching you, you're going to become a better defensive player. So that's a plus. They don't have any height now, especially when he only plays half the games now. So they're going to rely on Bass to be.
Oh, right.
Well, they got Wilcox too.
Well, I mean, people talked about you're going to trade Garnett for Butler and Bledsoe from Sacramento.
Jordan and Bledsoe. That was
Oh yeah.
From the LA Clippers.
The Clippers. Well, who's going to get the rebound? They'd never get another rebound again. They'd have nobody. You're not going to be able to win in the NBA without being able to rebound.
Yeah, but I would have liked to see that deal. I would have liked to see Garnett for Jordan and Bledsoe, two young guys. Jordan's active. He's center. Bledsoe, they say he's got an unbelievable upside. He's going to be a big scorer.
Right, he's been the
starts.
backup point guard, so he doesn't get to play behind Chris Paul.
So if you make that deal, if you're going to make that deal, then you got to make that deal for Pierce.
Right.
But they didn't make the deal. So, but they're going to have a good team. I mean, Rivers talked to Lee and Bradley about shooting more, and they've looked good the last two games.
And if you're the Lakers, are you going to say, yeah, we'll take Rondo for Howard even up? Why would you do that? Why would you give your big guy up? I know Howard hasn't worked out perfectly, and the joke was during the All-Star game that Howard asked to be traded from the West to the East during the game.
Yeah, but I don't like Howard anyway. I don't like him. Number one, he can't shoot foul shots.
Well, he's...
So what's he going to do at the end of the game? They're going to foul him.
I know. It was like Perkins. You had to take him out at the end of the game because he couldn't shoot free throws.
No, that's another thing I heard today, that the Celtics lost one championship because they traded Perkins. People don't know the game. Perkins never played at the end of the game. The last 8 minutes, there was Big Baby in there during that time before they traded him. They had to sit him out because, number one, he couldn't hit free throws. Number two, he couldn't space the floor on offense. He couldn't hit anything unless he got a dunk or an easy layup. People are saying they lost the championship because they didn't have him.
Well, a few teams made interesting moves. The Milwaukee Bucks got J.J. Redick, who can really shoot.
I would have loved to see the Celtics get
Now
him.
the Bucks, I don't see that as putting them over the top, but I love Redick. And then Ronnie Brewer went from the Knicks to Oklahoma City, and he's a good defensive player, kind of wing player, and they already have a lot of pieces there. So
Now, who did they give up? Who did
it wasn't really anybody.
they didn't give up anybody for Redick?
No, it wasn't. Most of the names were marginal guys.
No, I would have loved to see him on the Celtics, Redick.
So
That's
well, maybe
That's
Crawford
another
is
Allen.
the same kind of guy.
he's another Allen who can move a little better.
I know. Well, in the NBA right now, the top teams obviously Clippers, San Antonio, the Heat, Oklahoma City. Those are probably the four best teams, and it should be a really good postseason.
Yeah, forget the Clippers. They didn't make. It won't be the Clippers. It'll be probably Oklahoma City against Miami again.
I mean, I think the Celtics, if they get by one round, that would be good for them.
They won't get by a round. They're going to end up in seventh probably.
It could be. They didn't really. I just don't see them having enough pieces right
Although
now.
they can beat the Knicks. That'd be an unbelievable series. So who knows? If they play the Knicks, if they end up in 7th, they play the Knicks probably.
That would be a good
Or
series.
Indiana.
Indiana's pretty good too.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be right back.
On and off the court, Visionary Basketball Group delivers programs that empower players with skills for athletic and personal success. Our players undergo learning experiences that position them for positive lifelong achievement on and off the court.
Hello, my name is Anthony Taylor, founder of Visionary Basketball Group, VBG. It's a year-round basketball player development organization ranging from preschool to college and professional level, girls and boys. We cater to all skill levels, starting from beginner, intermediate, and advanced. One of the biggest things that we have is our coaching staff, who do a phenomenal job at mentoring the players on a regular basis with the training, the teaching, and the knowledge. We operate 7 days a week. We offer over 30 sessions, and we're considered one of the top comprehensive basketball player development organizations in New England. And another key aspect that we do is that we have kids coming from all different areas, urban, suburban communities, uniting as one. And that's what makes VBG a phenomenal organization that helps kids gain confidence, leadership, discipline, self-esteem. And if you have a chance, come down and see what we do at Visionary Basketball Group.
VBG player athletes are rising stars in elementary, middle school, high school, and college basketball. We apply the same approach to training with every participant at VBG and produce players who are prepared for maximum performance. Visionary Basketball not only provides programs for individuals, we can also come to your town, school, or any institution to customize a structured program for your team or basketball organization. For more information, please log on to our website, www.visionarybasketball.com, or drop into our Athletic Performance Center at 152 Tremont Street, Melrose, Mass. VBG, complete your vision.
Welcome back. Tonight for our sports conversation, we have one of our favorite players, Kayla Wyland, from the Melrose State Championship volleyball team and Melrose basketball. Welcome, Kayla.
Thank you.
So you've had an awesome season this year. Basketball, you're definitely our Middlesex Freedom Division MVP, and we're the only ones who really matter. No matter, we don't care what the other coaches
That's
say.
true.
Yeah, we voted last week, Dr. Sen and I.
And you had a really great season.
Thank you. I thought we were going to make the tournament by like a ton. Like I had no doubt in my mind, but the last, like once we played Arlington on, we lost by like 2 or 3 points for like at least 4 of the games, and it just ended up being tough.
What happened at the end of the games? I mean, you played like the Stoneham game. First 3 quarters, you played great. The last quarter, you couldn't get anything going. Same thing with the Wakefield game.
Oh, the Wakefield game, I don't even like talking about. But I think like we were like in it the whole time, and then I feel like maybe we like slacked off because we thought like, oh, this is an easy game. Like we all thought we were gonna kill Wakefield and Wilmington, and maybe that like got in our heads too much, and we shouldn't have let that affect us. And I don't know, yeah.
But I looked at the whole season, and what I looked at in the last 3 years you girls have played, especially the senior class, 2 years ago, when you girls were sophomores, it was like you really didn't enjoy it, the game when you were out there. This year you really enjoyed it. Every game you played hard. We enjoyed most of the games, but it just seemed to have, at the end of the games, you just couldn't finish them, and that was a shame.
Yeah, it was tough, but I mean, we did try our hardest, and everyone put in like as much effort as we could. It just ended up losing by 2 or 3, and what can you do?
Well, I think defensively the team played pretty consistently most of the year. It's been said before that basketball is a game of time and space, and a lot of times it just seemed there was too much congestion, and that didn't allow the kind of cutting and passing necessary to get easier shots. I mean, you work really hard to get those shots in the low block, but most of the other players are having trouble creating those quality shots.
Yeah, I feel like definitely the post opened up because like it would start like Brooke or Sydney or Shannon would be making their outside shots, so then the post players would be in like the well, the defensive players on them would have to stay up on them, so they couldn't help on the post, which opened me up. And then I would start making layups underneath, and then that would draw them back, and so then we would kick it out, and they would make shots. So that's how I feel like our sophomore and junior year we didn't really have that like connection, but now this year like it started clicking. So that's how we.
Yeah, it's all about finding your identity. We talk about that all the time. And last year, what used to get me upset is they didn't go down low to you enough, especially in the Salem game.
Yeah.
I talked about it during the game. We did the game. I think they went down here 3 times and you scored all 3 times. This year, after a couple of games, you could see the team started finding their identity. They knew that you were the go-to person down low. Then you started having some big games, and then Brooke was having some good games from the outside. But the problem is that, number one, you got sick for a while. Brooke got sick.
Oh, the
sprained
injuries
ankles.
and sickness this year was awful. First Shannon and Sydney and Ashley Harding, and then the colds and the flu going around. It affected us a lot. But
How much individual game planning is there, one team versus another, or is it pretty much this is what we do and we'll see how that works?
well, we always watch film before, and we like go over, not like before every game, but like some teams like we'll learn like Wakefield's go-to play is this, and like he'll like show us, and we'll like try and learn their play a little bit, like we did for Stoneham for the home game. But
Now, do you have someone scouting each team before you play them?
at the beginning of the season, he did tell us that, like he told us that Lindley, the freshman coach, would go and watch. So I'm not sure if it was the whole season, but I know at the beginning of the season, they definitely did. Yeah.
So how many points did you average this year? Seems like you averaged up in the teens.
I think it was 13.6 or something.
Yeah.
All right, for those who don't know, Kayla was the center on the basketball team. She averaged almost 14 points a game, almost 10 rebounds, and about 4 blocks. And to me, anyway, if you talk about the top players in the last dozen years, you know, if you had to have a 12-person team, Kayla would be in that conversation, which is saying a lot for a program that's had the kind of success that Melrose has had.
Yeah, well, you played volleyball also. How much time did you put into basketball? Because your game really came around this year.
Well, I used to play AAU my freshman and sophomore year, but then it ended up being so much because during volleyball, like after volleyball, I'd have to run home, grab my basketball stuff, and go to practice, and I would get home late, and so I did that my freshman sophomore year, but then I had to stop doing that. But in the summer, we had summer league basketball, which helped, and I work with Shannon Kerwin, and like her, she like for physical training, so it got me stronger in my endurance.
Now, your timing on defense improved a ton this year. Again, blocking shots. Did you work on that, or did you just come through experience?
I think it definitely helped that I was blocking in volleyball, so I think like the timing and like all of that just helped, like from carrying on from one sport to another, and jumping for volleyball and jumping for basketball and the blocking also. So I
Now,
think it helped.
have you measured your vertical jump, that sort of thing, and tracked that over time? Oh, okay.
No, I probably should have, but
Well, certainly Kayla and Rachel Johnson together constituted probably Melrose's most formidable blocking pair in the last decade, and you know, that helped carry them to the state championship, especially against Canton. Had you know, another all-state player that they pretty much held down. She had a good game, but she wasn't overwhelming.
Did you enjoy volleyball a little better than basketball because of the success, or do you enjoy both of them the same?
I enjoy both of the. I mean, volleyball obviously states like that was. It's an experience I'll never forget. Like that was just icing on the cake of the season, of a great season, and we almost won it the year before, and so we had to go back, and they were like, "This is our last chance. It's our senior year. Like, let's do it. Like, it's now or never," and we got it. So that was obviously like so memorable. But I've been playing basketball since I've been like walking. Like my dad like would make us go in the basement when I was like 6 or 7 and dribble around chairs, me and my sister, and so I mean it evens out, so I enjoy both of them a lot. I can't really pick and choose.
If you had a chance to play basketball and volleyball in college, which one would you pick?
I'm actually stuck in that position right now for Westfield and Plymouth State. I can play both sports.
You can play both if you go there?
So but it's D3, so I mean I could play both, but I mean that's really tough.
Do you have an idea of what you're going to do, or still thinking about it?
I'm still thinking about it, but I mean, I talked to the volleyball coach a lot, and I did an overnight at Plymouth with the volleyball team, and so like I know them better, but it's still up for grabs. I don't know.
Well, you're one of those players in volleyball. Dr. Sen and I both agree that your future is really bright in volleyball because you basically started off in volleyball as a freshman, right?
Yeah, I didn't even touch a volleyball.
And you can see your game improving, and with your reach and your height, I mean, and the way you came along this year, I mean, potential to be real good at volleyball is there. And you're already real good in basketball, so that's great. Great you can choose between the two or even play the two.
Yeah, I might end up playing both, but it would be a lot of time. So we'll see. But I think I'm leaning towards Plymouth for school-wise, but I'm not sure about sports-wise.
If you had some advice to pass on to younger players about athletics or school, what would it be?
For athletics, I would say no matter like what anyone is expecting of the team, or like no matter if you're like an underdog or on top, you should always like just like play your hardest, and don't be afraid to like help out other players and like tell them like, oh, try this instead of this, because it helps a lot. Like I remember like Jenny McGee and like the older girls, like even my sister like would help me and like give me advice on what to do, and it would help me a lot in my game. And school-wise, when you go to visit a school, you will know what one is your favorite. Like when I walked into Plymouth, I was like, this is my favorite school. So that helped a lot.
Other than the state championship game, what was your favorite match in volleyball?
Even though we lost, I would say Newton North, because before that game, like we hadn't even lost a match. So, and I think if we didn't lose that game, it would have made us struggle more in the tournament. We had to like learn how to lose, and I think that just made us smarter and built us as a team.
That was a great decision by Coach Telly to schedule on senior night your toughest competition.
Yes.
But that was genius because it got you ready for the tournament. You girls were unbelievable in the tournament.
I remember we had the hurricane. It was the hurricane day, and we thought we weren't going to be able to play them that night, and then we wouldn't have been able to play them at all because that was the deadline for games before the tournament. So we got lucky, and we were able to play them. So that was big for us.
Now, I can't remember which game it was, but there was one game that pretty much none of the starters or seniors played because the level of competition is somewhat uneven in the Middlesex League. The bottom teams are struggling. Was it hard to sit out that game?
Yeah, but I mean, like the bench players always like cheer us on and like help us out, and they're such a big part of the team because even like during practice and stuff, like both sides are so good, and we're like, I don't know, we work really well together, and they'll keep the ball going and we'll keep the ball going. It just makes us both learn and progress as a team.
Did you ever go up to Coach Telly and tell him you wanted to serve once in a while?
As a joke, I would sometimes.
How did you serve? I mean, in practice, could you serve real good?
I mean, I can like get it over, but it's nothing like Sarah McGowan's or like Brooks or Amanda's serve like that. Or either like Brooke can hit in a 10-foot line. Sarah's jump serve is like a bullet, and Amanda can place it wherever she wants. Mine's just kind of like I get it over, I get the job done, but nothing special.
Well, I'll predict that in 2 or 3 hours of coaching at the next level on how to hit, that you'll become an outstanding hitter. You're not that far away.
Yeah, I definitely have to. If I plan on playing volleyball, which I think I will, I'll definitely get like a hitting coach this summer to work on my hit. Because everyone says it looks like I'm going to go with my right hand and like hit it with my left, and I have to get it down better.
Well, I think you just have a little bit of a long hit. You have kind of a windmill type hit instead of hitting out of your ear.
Right, you're one of those players that's really going to take off in college. I mean, especially working the way they do, you're going to become real tough at the net. I mean, you can just see it. You can see you have so much potential. But in basketball also, one question I want to ask you, which I noticed, you changed your shooting form a little.
Oh, yeah.
And you really became really good at especially foul shooting.
Yeah,
Now, explain what you did.
Well, before, I remember I just was watching this game earlier, actually. You were like, it was the first Watertown game, and you noticed that I changed my form. And before, like, I would shoot it, and I feel like my guide hand kind of, like, held on a little more, so it would be, like, in the way sometimes. But in the summer, Mr. Leif noticed that too, and he was like, he made me just like stay there and do like reps of not using this hand, and like then like going over and over again. And at first I was like getting frustrated because then it was like combining both,
Yeah.
and then but after he like kept making me work at it, and I got it down, and then it would just work for me.
What was your impression of the Watertown student body making animal noises during the game?
Well, personally, I think it might have helped me shoot foul shots because I didn't miss one during that game. So, I mean, maybe it helped me, but during tournament time, I mean, every school is going to be doing that, but they were just, it was an interesting group of kids.
Yeah, I told some of the parents you have to forget about it, and you just can't get into a thing with them.
Yeah.
You leave it up to the athletic director and who's ever there from the school to straighten it out. But you're right, in the tournament they go nuts in the tournament. So
Yeah. I remember in the sailing game last year, they were all yelling during foul shots. I always make sure I look at the crowd after if it goes in. I'll be
Well,
like,
in the old days, the schools used to have pep bands, and a lot of kids would bring cowbells, and they were just, it was a very different atmosphere environmentally as far as noise. So
Yeah.
you got used to it because that's just how it was.
yeah.
right.
For the Watertown team, they were pretty rude too.
How about the
But-
big girl, Cordy?
Uh,
I shouldn't probably say her name.
Is
She
there much
whacked you a couple of times.
Yeah.
is there much trash talking going on out there?
During that game there was. Last year me and a different girl from Watertown kind of went at it, and then this year me and her went at it. But she's definitely going to be a really good player. When she learns how to like.
Well, they have a
These are
center
fun.
coming up from the 8th grade team, which we coach against.
Oh really?
They have a center who's about 6 feet, 6'1".
Who's already better than she is?
She's going to be the
Really?
best center in the league next year as a freshman.
Um,
And so they're going to have that team coming back with her if
Is
she
it-
goes to the school. She's from Watertown.
Yeah, only two of the two seniors that graduated this year didn't really play that
No,
much
they
either.
didn't play much.
They're going to be really good
They're
next
gonna
year.
be especially with that girl.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, we were talking about, again, Dr. Sen and I were talking about it. I mean, other than Haley, we feel you were the best player in the league. I mean, definitely the best center.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Haley could play anywhere.
Yeah.
She could play the 5, 4, to 3, to 2.
She
to 1.
averages like 25 points
She's
a
the
game.
best. She's actually better than Petty was, and Petty was great.
Yeah.
You know, from Melrose.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she was the best I saw
Yeah.
in high school. But who would you say?
No, I would agree because she has a different physical element to her game. She's probably 5'9" and a quarter, 5'9" and a half. She's
Yeah.
extremely strong. She can take the ball to the basket. She can post up. She
Shoot.
can shoot outside. She's a tremendously aggressive player defensively. She can offensive rebound. There really isn't anything she can't do. Now, I'm not saying that she's going to be an All-American player or anything like that because you play at the next level. All the other players are also big and strong
Yeah.
and tough and physical.
But the one thing I would say about Kayla, for any young boy or girl watching this, I remember Kayla from the 6th grade. I mean, Kayla was a okay player through middle school. Came pretty good. She got in high school. She was a pretty good player as a freshman. You know, not a star. And she worked hard. And her senior year became a tremendous, if you're talking about high school basketball, a great basketball player as a senior. And very good as a junior. She just you didn't get the ball
Yeah.
as much as you should have.
Thanks.
But for anybody who's watching, any kid, just keep working at your game. I mean, Kay's a perfect example.
Well, the great Pete Newell, who coached at Cal, one of the great basketball teachers of all time, said, if you have, number one, if you have a dominant shot blocker, that totally changes the game. But if you have the combination of balance, footwork, and quickness, like Kayla had, and some of the other great players that we've seen through the years, you're going to become a dominant player if you work at it. Now, what John Wooden said about Bill Walton was he never got bored by the repetition necessary to become great.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about when Kayla told me that volleyball may have helped her. I think it did. Her timing in basketball was unbelievable this year, and I bet you that with volleyball had a lot to do with
I definitely think
it.
it helped. When I was in like 3rd grade, I would always say me and all my friends, like Amanda and like all of us, we would go to the basketball games and watch them, and we would all be like, we want to be Red Raiders, like all this stuff. It was like my dream to become a captain of the team and like all this stuff, and that's why.
So who was playing then?
Like Shannon Kerwin, Megan Kerwin, Lindley, I can't.
Lindley's great too for the program.
Yeah.
You know, Dr. Sen and I love their games. Good kid. She was a great basketball player. Did a great job with the freshman team. As a matter of fact, we scrimmaged. My 8th grade team scrimmaged.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And they're well coached. The kids love playing for her. And even the JV coach, Hersfeld, a lot of the players liked him. So
He was really nice. He helped us a lot.
So it's good.
I think I'm calling it now. When the freshmen this year are seniors, and when the kids you coach, the 8th graders, are juniors, they're going to win states.
It could be. If we talk to them about improving every year, keep improving, keep working on your game, just like you did. I mean, if they can all improve like you did, I agree.
I definitely, every single one of them, like all of the players, they all love basketball. They all try as hard as they can. Like no one slacks off. Like I honestly think they have a chance.
And they're all great kids.
They're all great kids. Like the freshmen this year are awesome.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight, Kayla. We look forward to hearing a lot more about you in college.
Good
Thank
luck,
you.
Kayla.
We'll be right back.
At Athletic Evolution, it starts with a purpose and ends with your success. Visit our website or drop into our training facility at 78B Olympia Avenue, Woburn, Mass. Athletic Evolution, giving you the edge.
Welcome back. Lou, our hockey expert, joins us. You can put everything that Ralph and I know about hockey into a thimble and have room left over.
Talk to us about the Bruins.
You could tell by my height that I was a professional hockey player. The Bruins, I think they look great right now, other than the fact that Buffalo's manhandled them 2 out of 3 times. Who, incidentally, Lindy Ruff just got fired. So apparently the fact that he got Buffalo over the hump with possibly the best team in the division meant nothing to Buffalo ownership. So I guess you can't win for losing.
Yeah, Buffalo was, what, 2-1 against the Bruins?
And they scored a ton of goals in the third period. I mean, the Bruins have been really good this year. When you think about it, they have the look of what they had a couple of years ago when they won the Cup. To me, they have that look right now. You know, Rask has played very solidly. Defense, they're giving them what you want. I mean, their first defensive pairing, you figure you want Chara and Seidenberg. You want them to be out there playing good. You know, they're going to log minutes. They're going to log the tough minutes. They're going to play very hard, very physical. The young kid, Dougie Hamilton, I like him. You know, what more can you say about it? You got Marchand is scoring. You know, Krejci looks good. Everybody's doing what they're supposed to do.
Well, there's always some Philistine who says, well, they don't score enough goals. What's the matter with them?
Their power play, once again, is down the bottom. Okay, I think they're 28th in power play, but they're first in penalty kill. So, you know, if you like defense first, then what are you complaining about? You know what I mean? That's I say to them.
To win the Stanley Cup, okay, what's the key? What do you think is the key to get them to the finals?
I'll tell you what I think the way hockey is today, it's going to be an endurance test. When you look at the way that they played against Buffalo, you know, okay, it's a division rival. You can throw that out. New York Rangers, that's going to be, I think, you know, you have probably the best goalie in the league, Lundqvist. He's unbelievable. They're a tough physical team. They're going to play the way the Bruins don't want to have to face like that kind of a matchup, you know. It's going to be one of those old like smash mouth throwback games that I can see them and the Rangers, you know, the prototypical 7-2-1 games, you know.
Don't you think the Rangers have more firepower than them?
They do, but let's take a look at the Bruins. I mean, who's the Bruins? You know, when you think about it, like the Bobby Orr or the Cam Neely, do the Bruins have one of them? Probably not.
Well, the
Okay.
closest thing they have to a scorer right now is Marchand, which is odd.
Marchand with 8 goals, and he's more the kind of player you think of him as a third-line agitator that's going to get 22 goals. Now he leads the team with 8 right now. Who is the Cam Neely on that team? And you say, well, you're better off having 3 solid
Well,
lines.
Lucic's supposed to be the Cam Neely.
And he's, you know what?
I mean, out of anybody, he's the only one that could be close to a Cam Neely.
I'll tell you who I think is, if anybody on that team, I think Lucic is, his head is close to the ceiling. I think
Isn't he
good
the
as he's
most
gonna be.
overrated player in the league? What's he doing? Is he getting anything done?
Hard to say. I mean, it's you know, you don't want to.
Oh, Bergeron, too.
You know what, though? Bergeron, though, he's the biggest thing about Bergeron, defensive forwards get very little respect, you know, because
Yeah, but how many goals does he have? 1?
the stats aren't there. That's the problem with these guys. Tyler Seguin is the guy, I think,
Well, that's the
who's
key
got
to
the
me.
most to grow.
When I asked you that question, what's the key? The key is he's got to play like a superstar. If he doesn't,
I don't think he's
they're
quite.
not going to do it.
He's
And I don't
young
know
though.
if he's there.
He's not there yet. You got to look at his age. But I'll tell you, when I see him, you see him go in on a breakaway, open ice, and you see him on, especially, you know, the shootouts. My God, that kid, his hands. Did you see the game? He scored the goal, and some clown threw something in. They threw a drink or a hot dog or something. And so he had to go back and do it over again, and he scored again. The way he's got hands like.
There's something wrong
dream
there.
about
with him.
It reminds me
There's
of-
something wrong with
They have
him.
a whole team full of Eddie Westfalls. Nothing wrong with Eddie Westfall. Good player, excellent defensive player, but can you win without more star power?
They did it 2 years ago.
But
you
what
know?
is going on with Seguin? Why don't I see him in the center ice putting pressure on a defense more like these other skaters do on these other teams?
You know, honestly, I think he's still a little bit timid. I think, you know, some guys want to take that leadership role, like a Brett Hull. You know, I mean, obviously, okay, you look at Brett Hull. He came in, he was, you know, the son of the Golden Jet. You know, obviously he had high expectations. They expected him to do well, but he was never going to be short of bravado, and then he backed it up on the ice. Sagan's a little bit, I think, maybe just timid. Maybe he doesn't want to step out of that shadow.
Well, you watch
know?
a guy like Ovechkin, and you've got to know where he is every second because it looks like he's ready to explode at the net.
There's like 5 or 6 of them, and Seguin has the same talent, but you don't see him as often. I don't know what it is.
He's a young player.
Maybe it's the way he's
that's it.
coached.
I think that
Maybe he's got to worry too much about his defense.
Well, yeah, you know what, though? See, that's the other thing. When you have to play within a system. And if you have a defense-first system, you know, you can't, maybe he's out there, maybe he gets that open look, and instead of, I'm going to make a break for the line, it's nope, I'm going to circle back and get into the defensive alignment. That happens, you know? I mean, I'm not saying that that's the way it goes because we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but you got to wonder sometimes because, like you said, okay, Ovechkin, you know, if he sees anything, what I would guarantee you, if you coach Ovechkin, you say, if you see anything, you get the puck, you go to the net, and everybody else is going to get in an alignment around you that if you don't put it in the net, they're going to put it in the net.
But-
you know?
Do you remember that game last year when Seguin scored those 2 goals when he just went right by it, split the 2 defensive
Split
players?
the defense was one of the greatest goals, one of the great playoff
Then the
goals.
second goal is when he took 2 strides and blew by the defenseman and got the pass and scored. I mean, you see him do those things, and then you see him in other games, you don't see him.
He disappears. He's got the talent. He is going to be that guy. I think 2 things. He's got to not be timid and bulk up in the upper body. And you are going to see, I think you'll see guys bouncing off him in open ice like the way, yeah, I mean, you know, it's a cry from obviously Mario Lemieux. Lemieux would go down the center of the ice. Guys would be bouncing off him, and he just put it in the net like it was nothing. And he was the biggest crybaby there ever was about contact.
Well, you hope he has the commitment to be that player, you know, because some players have talent, but they just don't have the drive to fulfill their potential.
And yeah, and we're not going to know that. But I have to say, you know, this is the kind of thing that it comes down to coaching now. You see a guy has that much potential, and he's only here. Well, I don't know of any coach that's going to be satisfied with that because you're not seeing, okay, well, he's good, he's coming along. Sooner or later, you got to push him. I mean, the words of Bill Parcells, potential only means you haven't done it yet.
Who would have thought top 4 teams in hockey right now? Who'd you say? Would you say San Jose is one?
Blackhawks.
And the Blackhawks?
Blackhawks are looking good. I mean, but you know what it is right now? This is the problem I have when I look at the standings. You know what it is? It's like in horse racing. You have the mile race. It's not quite a route race, but it's not quite a sprint. Where they had the late start, you got to wonder how many of these coaches are saying, we got to turn the screws now. Or maybe, okay, let's just, I don't care if we come out of the gate 500. Let's wait until, and I'm not saying they're going to wait and lose games, but I'm saying you don't want to make this into a, let's get out of the gate hell-bent for leather. So it's kind of hard. I think it's misleading to look at the standings at this point in time. Chicago has it that they could win it. San Jose, I don't know. They just remind me of that perennial bridesmaid that just, they'll get to the playoffs and they'll look good, and then they'll lose a series 4-1, and you'll just scratch your head and say, well, what happened to these guys? They have these talent, and they just can't get it done.
Do you think the backup goaltending is going to be sufficient?
That's a hard question, because I'll tell you, I have to worry about the first goaltending at this point, because, I like Rask, and I think he proved 2 postseasons ago. The Philadelphia series was tough. He proved he can be a starting goalie in this league, and he proved he can win a playoff series. I think the Bruins had bigger problems when you look at what happened in Philadelphia when they lost those 3 games. And, I don't know if Rask wears that like an albatross. I don't know if he has it in the back of his mind that, Thomas comes in next year, wins a cup. I never get my job back. Now I needed basically Tim Thomas to flip his wig in order for me to get my starting job back, and okay, here I am. But I think he has to answer the bell before they worry about anyone backing him up, because you got to think it's a short season now. If he proves that okay, he can get the job done, you say, all right, well then that's great. But if the question starts to arise, then you got to say, okay, we got to get us a starting goalie.
Well, the Bruins going to spend the money now that they've moved Thomas?
They got $4 million lying around. Who do you spend it on? If you got a goalie that can get it done, then you can maybe go out and bring in. I mean, they brought in Jay Pandolfo. He's 39 years old. He's almost older than I am. But it'll be good veteran leadership. You can never have enough guys like that. But I don't know. The goalie's an interesting question if he can get it done.
Well, thanks to Lou for carrying us through the hockey segment. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Paul Rabel from the Boston Cannons, and you're watching Let's Talk Sports.
Warm up the duck boats, according to Juan Nieves anyway. The Red Sox pitching coach just reviewed the Red Sox starting rotation, and you'd think they had Koufax, Drysdale, Marichal, maybe Jim Palmer. I don't know what he's saying. Has anybody seen John Lester lately? He lost something off his fastball. Yes, he's a big guy, but he's not able or willing to throw the ball over the plate. And when the ball is close to the plate, he's going to argue with the umpires and say it was a strike. I mean, I think the Red Sox rotation is okay, but as far as Nieves thinking that Lester's another 20-game winner, Buchholz 15-18, etc., he's crazy.
What do you think, 84 and 78 would be good?
Oh, I think if the Red Sox went 84 and 78, that would be outstanding. I think more like 78 and 84 would be more likely.
Well, Ortiz is going to have a big year.
If he can run.
Middlebrook's going to have to stay healthy. You got Pedroia, you got Ellsbury. Victorino is going to be second.
Well, I'm fond of saying baseball is a sport where occasionally people have seasons that are far beyond what are their norm. In 1969, Mark Belanger of the Orioles, who was a .228 career hitter, hit .287. Now, is it possible that Stephen Drew will hit 300 and Pedroia will hit 320 and Middlebrooks will hit 35 home runs and Ortiz will have 30 homers and hit 320? Yeah, anything's possible. Is it likely? No. I understand where the Red Sox are coming from. They got a bunch of guys hoping that they're coming off mediocrity and will play better. And if they all play better, then the Red Sox could outperform almost miraculously.
It all comes down to who's on steroids and who isn't. Look at the Yankees. Is Teixeira going to go back on it and get back to the way he used to be, or what? Or is he going to hit 220 with 30 useless home runs? Cano, another one.
Well, are they going to sign Cano to a long-term deal?
I think they would. They have to. When you look at that team.
I mean, I think Cano's a great player, but I'm also believing he's probably on something. It's terrible to be so skeptical, but with the Miami revelations.
Well, he is. You know, most of the,
Well,
you
I
know,
don't
you
know.
hate to say it, most of the Dominican players are. You know,
Well,
look at
it's-
them. Look at the stars from starting go way back to Gonzalez. What was his first
He's
name?
Puerto
Norfolk-
Rican, Juan Gonzalez.
Juan Gonzalez.
Yeah.
You
Well,
go
it's-
back to him. He was on it, but then you go Ramirez, Manny Ramirez, Ortiz has been on it. You
I know,
and
it's hard not to be skeptical.
Sosa.
Well,
Look at Colon. Colon the pitcher. What did he do to his blood or whatever?
well, people cheat because they know that there's so much money in it.
you can't
know?
blame, but you can't blame him in a way. I
Well,
mean,
if
they're
you-
making millions of dollars.
Right, if they can't catch you, then what's the big deal? At least
Then
that's-
Bonds and Clemens. I mean, it's not only the Dominicans;
Now-
it's everybody.
Now, to jump over to the Yankees for a minute, the latest talk is they're going to move Gardner to center and Granderson to left. Now, obviously, I think both of them are very good outfielders.
Gardner's great.
Yeah,
He's
no.
a great defensive player.
Now, to me, Gardner, when healthy, is probably going to end up being a little bit more productive than Ellsbury. Ellsbury's done it one time. You know, I don't know who the real guy is. You know, last year his OPS was less than 700. He played half the year. Okay, he was hurt. Judging by the way they're throwing away around money now, Ellsbury would probably get 15, 18 million a year if he can hit 18 homers and 75 RBIs and steal 30 bases. That gets you ridiculous money now.
I mean, the Red Sox have talent, you know, but I mean, they don't have Ortiz like he used to be and Ramirez like he used to be. You don't have those big hitters. You know, I mean, you gotta rely on Middlebrooks and whoever else.
Well, when you have a lineup with a guy like Napoli, Pedroia, Drew, Middlebrooks, Gomes, Ellsbury, and Victorino, you might have games where they're scoring 15 runs, but the next day they might get none. You know, it's just you got guys like Gomes who can really hit the ball a long way when he makes contact.
And Napoli's going to be huge if he can
Yeah.
play a lot at Fenway.
Right. Gomes is a guy that is, you know, I think he hit 223, something like that, against right-handed pitching last year. Now, maybe some of those outs were flyouts that they're doubles off the wall at Fenway. I don't know.
But they're picking the Yankees #1, Toronto #2, Baltimore 3, Tampa
Well,
Bay and the Red Sox.
I mean, to me, the Red Sox have more question marks than Frank Gorshin in The Riddler. That's from the Batman show from the 70s for people who aren't long in the tooth.
But that's going to be a battle though in that East.
Well, the Red Sox put a hurt on Northeastern today, handled them 3-0.
How did Bard pitch?
I think he struck out the side.
So he's got control. You know, they say he's looking better.
You know, we'll see. What I couldn't understand is Bard saying somehow that the starting evaluation last year was somehow that the Red Sox wanted him to be a starter. Give me a break. He wanted to be a starter and try to go for big money, and he failed. It happens. You know, maybe he wasn't suited to be a starter. That's not the end of the world, but don't come out and make excuses after the fact. You know, you couldn't throw the ball over the plate. All you could do was hit people and throw wild pitches. Then you went to the minor leagues and failed miserably there. Now, number one, he's a smart guy. I don't know if that works against you. Papelbon probably has an IQ 30 points lower than Bard, but, you know, all right, so you're a relief pitcher, you had a bad day. Papelbon probably doesn't even remember what happened the day before,
No.
that's okay. You have to have a short memory when you're a relief pitcher, a closer, or if you're a cornerback in the NFL.
The Red Sox, they're going to have a good bullpen this year.
They should have a good bullpen.
They're going to be real strong.
The best pitcher, and people are going to say, what are you talking about? For the Red Sox, the second half of the year was Tozawa. He had his Tommy John surgery. Now he throws 95, 96 instead of 91, 92. He's terrific. And they got the guy Koji Uehara, can't even say it, who I don't know how he gets people out, but he really knows how to pitch. So he's really good. Bard, the closer, hand. The problem is you have to be in a close game to have your bullpen make a difference.
Well, Lackey's going to be huge. You know, Buckholz, Lester, DeBrant. Look at he came in an overweight.
Right. And then, you know, the guy I'm kind of wondering about, will Stephen Wright, the knuckleballer, end up in the rotation, you know, the second coming of Tim Wakefield?
Yeah, they have Wakefield working with him there. So,
and we didn't even mention Ryan Dempster, who, to me, he's a guy who's going to be a 500 pitcher and have an ERA of 5. People are going to say, well, how do you know that? Well, he's a year older, and last year he had an ERA of over 5 when he pitched for Texas. That's who he is.
but it should be a good race. I mean, you look at that league. I mean, there's no great team there. You know, it's going to be a battle. I mean, the Red Sox have a shot. but they're going to have to get the pitching.
Right.
Again, the bullpen's going to be strong. They're going to have to get the starting pitching.
Toronto upgraded their rotation and their offensive lineup. The Yankees are still strong, and Tampa's got great pitching.
Yeah, but for the Red Sox, they have the bullpen. They have starting pitching. If they pitch to their best, their ability, they're going to, and then they have enough hitting if they get the good pitch.
Well, maybe they're figuring if they can get guys to pitch 6 innings, hold them to 3, and then piece it together with the rest of the bullpen, they could be okay.
That's the key. Let's talk a little about the boys.
Yeah, the boys had a remarkable season. They apparently equaled the 1989 team and have gone 20-0. Well, I've only seen them play one game. I saw them play Wilmington, and they were outstanding there.
Yeah, they beat Arlington by 2 in the finals of their tournament.
Well, I
at the
think
end.
they had a very close game against Arlington, but according to the newspaper, Franzi Perot was out. Now I don't know.
Oh, he was?
I don't know if he was out sick or with an injury or,
I wonder if he was out against Arlington Catholic the day before.
he was.
So he was off of both games.
Right. So I don't know.
Best player in the league.
He's a terrific player. He's got great instincts for the game. For a player who hasn't played a long time, he has got a very high skill level. He is so quick out at the front of the press.
Is he a junior?
Yes, he's a junior.
And they got a couple of good freshmen on the team this year too.
Well, they have Stefan Harris, I believe, and then they have Julian Nyland, who's a good-looking young player too, and they have Sam Jean-Gilles, who's a terrific player in the middle, and of course,
he's a senior,
right, and Matt Sherlock, who's been wonderful as the point guard this season. They are so quick on defense. They're wonderful to watch. I mean, if I could pick how I would want our girls to be able to play, I'd say I want them to play exactly like that. I want them to be able to press, play multiple defenses, have anticipation, and have a shot blocker in the back, and be able to run, without fatigue.
Yeah, they also have Steele at center they bring in. He doesn't start, but when we saw him against Wilmington, he looked pretty
They
good.
got some things done.
So they have it all.
So, of course, there's going to be other teams that are talented. Wakefield, I expect them to be tough, and I think Danvers is in Division II
they're
as well.
strong. They're very strong.
Danvers is one of the top teams. Now, I think Danvers only has 1 loss. So Melrose will be the top seed. So maybe if Melrose can, hold the chalk, as they say, and maybe it would be Melrose Danvers in the finals. I don't know if they're at Songus this year or not.
It'd be nice to do some of their games too in the playoffs. We haven't been able to because we did the girls' games.
Right. That was the one thing I meant to ask Kayla, and I didn't about how she felt about the girls' games being played at a separate venue from the boys.
Oh yeah, I mean, we talked about in the Wakefield game. When they played at Wakefield, they had maybe 60 fans.
Mm-hmm.
If they had played, if it was under the same system where the boys came in after, in say this case, they would have had 500 fans there at least, rather than 60. Place would have been going crazy. That was a great game, the girls' game against Wakefield.
Well, just to switch gears in the final few minutes, the Patriots have some real issues right now. Alfonso Dennard found guilty of assaulting a police officer, so his availability is totally going to depend on the judge.
He won't get much. If he gets 30 days, that'll be a lot. They may put him on probation. The DA already said he's not going to be asking. He's going to leave it up to the judge. So if the DA is saying that, they're not looking for anything.
Well, let's hope so.
He didn't have any history either.
No.
I mean, it's his first, usually when it's the first time, unless he really hurt the police officer, you're not going to get too much time, maybe
All right.
30 days.
Well, of course, Ralph's an expert in the judicial thing, so I'd certainly defer to him. Talib, I don't know what to think about Talib. They could put the transition tag on him, but he wasn't exactly the healthiest guy ever.
Ron, how could you give him how can you do that? You can't give him the franchise tag. He only played 38%
I know.
of the defensive plays. How can you give a guy, when he gets his money, he's not going to give the effort. You know it. I already know that.
Well, it's just,
So why would you give him the franchise tag and guarantee him $9 million or $10 million a year?
what
for
are
that year?
The Patriots are kind of stuck. They have to pay somebody. Volmer.
They won't give it to Volmer.
I don't think he's going. I don't think
They'll give him a
Welker.
good contract offer, and he'll probably stay.
I just don't think Welker's going to. I don't think anybody's going to pay Welker $10 million a year to do what he does because they're going to say you're a system player and you're not going to be able to do it for us. We'll see.
But you know, people are knocking the Patriots, and they're knocking Welker for not sitting out. Well, number one, he wasn't supposed to sit out. He had a contract. You know, these other players put pressure on the Patriots. He didn't want to go that way. He made almost $10 million last year, Ron.
Right, I don't have any problems.
What's wrong with that?
If Welker can get 11, 12, $15 million from another team, he should go there. But I don't think that he's going to get that kind of money. I think that he's going to end up back on the Patriots 2 years, $16 million, probably what they originally offered him.
And that's what's bad about that. When you look at that, 2 years, $16 million, it's actually 3 years, $25 million. When you're taking last year. And he's in a perfect situation with Brady and the Patriots. You know, but I mean, you still got to pay him. He's not going to take $5 million.
No, absolutely not. And then, you know, they've got other issues. We've talked about, can they defend the middle of the field against tight ends and running backs out of the backfield? So you need to get more speed at linebacker.
Well, Fletcher, you mentioned that last show.
Wow.
Fletcher's going to be a big addition because what they'll do in third down situations, they'll take Spikes out. He's useless against the pass, great against the run. So you take him out, put Fletcher in there, you know. But again, the two problems, Belichick's done a terrible job with the defensive backs. And he's done a terrible job with the defensive line. No pressure up the middle. He's got two fatties in the middle, Will Falk and Love, who are useless when the quarterback goes out on a pass because they don't very rarely put any pressure on the quarterback. No one's in his face. Even if you don't sack him, Ron, at least if you get in his face and get your arms up, he's got to change his form.
Well, at least the Jets are minus Calvin Pace and Bart Scott now. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Ron Sen.
And I'm Ralph LaBella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.